call the member for Melbourne.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Today I rise to bring to the Australian Parliament's attention the emergency facing the Oromo people. The Oromo people are the largest ethnic group in Ethiopia, with a unique language and cultural identity. Oromo-Australians form a vibrant, emerging community in Australia who are making a big contribution to Melbourne and elsewhere. Many members of the Australian Oromo community arrived in Australia after being forced to leave Ethiopia because they were political opponents of the current regime. Right now, there are disturbing reports that peaceful Oromo protests are being met with violence in Ethiopia. Oromo activists and community members tell of ongoing attacks on the human rights of Oromo people, including the historical suppression of Oromo language, history and culture. Amnesty International has reported that from 2011 to 2014, at least 5,000 Oromos were arrested as a result of their actual or suspected peaceful opposition to the government. Beginning in November 2015, Oromo students led protests against the actions of the ruling regime against Oromo rights, including the eviction of Oromo farmers from their ancestral lands under the government's integrated master plan to expand Addis Ababa. Protesters believe that the plan will ensure the continued erasure of Oromo historical and cultural values from the city. Oromo farmers evicted from their land do not have anywhere else to go. Meanwhile, much traditional farming land in Oromia and other regions has been sold off to international business and agriculture interests for large-scale farming and food exports from a country already facing food insecurity and threatened by a changing climate. Oromo activists in Australia talk of their fears that with climate change, conflict over land and resources will only grow more intense, leaving the most vulnerable exposed to injustice or pushed off their lands. International media and organisations such as Human Rights Watch have reported that over 140 peaceful protesters have been confirmed as killed by security forces. Witnesses tell that number may be much higher. Activists tell that hundreds of people have disappeared, that 2,000 have been injured, and that 10,000 people have been imprisoned simply for exercising their political and human rights. Amongst the imprisoned are opposition party members, journalists, singers, students and others. The government has reportedly withdrawn aspects of the integrated master plan, but violence against peaceful protesters has continued, according to reports. And Oromo Australians tell me movingly that Oromo people are still protesting daily for their rights, knowing of the violence that they may face. Now, the Oromo diaspora has supported protesters. Several rallies and meetings have been held in Melbourne and in other cities around the world, and campaigning continues online. Hundreds of people from Melbourne's Oromo community have signed a petition calling on the Australian government to affirm to the government of Ethiopia the human and political rights of the Oromo people, and I'll later, at another day, table that petition in Parliament. I urge our government to take action with the Ethiopian government to ensure that human rights and dignity are extended to all, including the Oromo people.
Thank the member for Melbourne and call the member for